I just want to make sure everyone can see this. I'm not for sure. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the presentation. My name is Dr. Gloria Ponce Rodriguez, and I welcome you to the College Expo, the Black College Expo. And what we're going to be discussing, or what I'll be discussing today is how to find money for college. Many times a lot of students don't know how to navigate the educational pipeline as far as financing their college education. And I'm going to go through this PowerPoint, but this PowerPoint will be on our National College Resources website for your convenience. So we're going to go ahead and get started as soon as I can. I'm just having technical. Here we go. Let me see. Okay, so first you need to know you have to create a FAFSA. If you're a senior, you should already have your FAFSA. You probably should be receiving notifications from your colleges as well. And the first piece that you do need is to create your FSA ID, then apply for the FAFSA and list the colleges that you think you're going to be applying to. Why? Because if the colleges are not on your FAFSA application, what happens is that the college and university that you may have got accepted to will not be able to send you a financial aid award letter or send you notifications as far as verification forms that you may have to complete to receive an award letter. So it's very, very critical that you create all the portals to all the schools that you've been accepted to, so that way the financial aid office can send you notifications for your schooling, for your financial aid. Okay. So the next thing, I'm going to kind of scan through this. This is what I mentioned earlier. I definitely need to go through this because no matter how much we talk about money, if you do not have a FAFSA on file, you will not receive a scholarship. You won't receive any Pell Grant, federal aid, state aid, institutional aid, and even private aid. So it's very, very critical to have a FAFSA on file. And what I found with many students that I really need to stress is that they have to create their FSA ID for themselves, as well as at least one parent has to have an FSA ID. If you live with both parents, of course, they have to be on the application, but one parent will need that. And why? Because it is your electronic signature. That is your legal binding signature, identifies you. So it has to be cleared through the Social Security Administration. Second is the reason why you have to have a FAFSA is because that's how they calculate your expected family contribution, meaning your family income. That way they'll know how much financial aid that you're eligible for, what your need is. So please learn about the FAFSA. There's many, many websites out there. And in most cases, if like here in California, you have to have a FAFSA on file to receive your state aid. And that's for every other state throughout the US, and DC as well, for the DC incentive grants and all those other various grants for schools in Florida, Tennessee, whatever aid they have for state aid, you have to have a FAFSA on file because they partner together to make sure that you have a FAFSA, and that's how they give you your state aid as well. So remember those two things. This is just a form. I'm just going to scan through this. But I do want to talk a little bit about COVID, how it has disrupted the admissions process, as well as financial aid, as well as school districts across the nation. However, even though it's disrupted, financial aid they still have the deadlines. They may have extended it somewhat, but there's still deadlines. Also with your SAT and ACT scores. Once they open up, you'll be able to take those tests if needed. But currently, most universities and colleges are waiving the SAT and ACT. So if you're already a graduating senior, they know that there was no place for you to take the test. So many of you have already been accepted based on your grades and your transcripts and your essays. So things may change in the future, but for now, just know that there's all kind of information at universities on their main website about the and they'll be able to guide you. And also there's a lot of support as well. If you go into the School of Attendance, there are chat rooms where they answer questions for you. I know that some of you have been calling your financial aid office, maybe put on hold for numerous hours, but sometimes you can leave a message in most cases, as well as chat with them. And they will answer your questions, or they'll direct you to the resources that you need to get the information. So one thing that you definitely want to do when you're attending the school, especially now during this time, is check with your school, like as I mentioned, attendance by visiting their school website. And also, if you want to know what type of scholarships they have on campus, that school will list their scholarships under their financial aid website. So once you go into the school, go to either admissions, financial aid, future student, or prospective student, and you'll be able to retrieve some of the financial aid information from there. In many cases, in most cases, colleges do have their institutional scholarships on their website, and it also will give you the criteria on how to apply for those schools. Okay. Also, there are billions of dollars out there, about $150 billion of federal aid. Now, a lot of people don't know, well, maybe I'm not eligible for federal aid. Well, what does that mean? Well, it just depends. It depends on a lot of factors for federal aid. It depends on your family income. It depends on family house size. It also, you can have special circumstances. So it just depends. So every student is different, but in general, the EFC, most parents that make less than 27,000 and only have two people in their family, then they'll receive a zero EFC, which means that you'll get all the full Pell. Full Pell for this year, upcoming year, is $6,345 for needy students. However, you may say, well, my family makes $45,000 a year. Okay, but we have a family of five. You may not get the full amount. That's why the financial aid office will determine that using an index guided by federal student aid. But in most cases, you will receive funding. So if you have that many people in your home. So there's a lot of criteria. And I don't work in financial aid anymore, but I can tell you a little bit about it just to give you a guidance so that way you know who to contact if you are applying for federal student aid as well. Now, keep in mind that when you submit your SAR, your student aid report, when it comes back, it will tell you when it's been processed. It will tell you how much you're going to get. Not the submission, that's just an estimate. But when it says process successfully, you go into your SAR, open up the comments, and it'll tell you exactly how much Pell you're going to get. It will not list any other aid. A lot of times students get confused, so I want to make sure that you understand that piece of it, okay? Because it really will help you understand how that process works. So many schools offer scholarships on campus. Make sure too, if you're receiving a full ride scholarship to any school that you may want to attend, you have to maintain that GPA because scholarships can be taken away if you change your major. So make sure you read your contract, basically. Okay. It could be an athletic scholarship. It could be a merit scholarship or a certain major. That's why you receive that scholarship. And then you decide to change your major. You may lose that scholarship. So you have to look at all those factors. And a lot of students don't, because many students change their major 2 or 3 times in college. So make sure when you get in a scholarship that you solidify what you really want to do, because that scholarship can also be taken away if you don't meet the criteria that they put forth for you. Okay. Also, I already went over the SAT. There's various types of scholarships: federal aid, as I mentioned, state aid, institutional, and private. So there's also scholarship scammers out there. I just got another scam just a few minutes ago before I came online, believe it or not. And it was from someone saying that I would be arrested if I don't contact Social Security Administration. So we all know that that's all false. So scammers are out there. Nobody will ask for your personal identity. One thing about federal student aid, that's why you have to create your own FSA ID as well as your parents create their own. We have parents creating students and not supposed to, or vice versa. That is a privacy. That's identity theft, basically. Even though you're doing it for them, you've got to make sure you're creating the FSA ID for your parent. You got to make sure that they're there. Maybe they may not be computer literate. You can help them that way, but you have to ask for permission. We have to really stress that federal government are sticklers on that. There's scammers out there. And a lot of times students or parents have become victims of identity theft. So we want to make sure that we protect the identity of all students. So make sure that when you are talking to someone about scholarships, that it's free. You can talk to your counselor. There's all kind of websites out there. And in this presentation, you're going to get a lot of information. Maybe a lot too much, but it's good information that's going to help you. And you will have access to this PowerPoint. So the next step is avoiding scams. As I mentioned, there's a lot of them out there. There may be someone says, well, we can get your child a scholarship, athletic scholarship. And you pay them $500 to $1,000 like my sister did years ago, and didn't give him any type of scholarship. And get his own scholarships. If you're that good, you should already have a scholarship. Most people are going to go walk on. Know this: colleges and universities normally already have who they're going to offer their scholarships to. Every once in a while, there's an exception, but that's very rare. I used to be a college recruiter, and I used to recruit, and I used to recruit for the coach as well. When I go to different states, he'll tell me to go to school, recruit them, offer them a full scholarship, but that's coming from that school. So they already have their students, and most students that you don't have a scholarship, maybe you're going to be looking for a merit scholarship if it's not athletic. Just don't get caught up in those scams. Do your research, do your due diligence. It's very, very important. So, so that way you're more aware of what's going on as far as scholarships. Um, Weighted versus unweighted. I say this because to get scholarships, sometimes students don't give out the correct information, and based on sometimes students say, I have a 3.5 GPA, 3.5 GPA. It may be for that semester. In most cases, seniors bring up their grades in their senior year, right? Sometimes they're second semester junior, but they bring up their grades in their senior year, and guess what happens? So they get the wrong GPA, but they may have had a 2.5 in their freshman year or 2.6 in their sophomore year, and then they start bringing up their grades because they got more serious. But that has to be a cumulative GPA, and also remember the weight scale is on a 0 to 4 point scale, not a 5. So a lot of times students will say 4.3. Universities operate on 0 to 4. So do your due diligence and do your research about the school that you're going to be attending, and make sure that you're calculating the correct GPA when they ask for your GPA. Okay. One thing, a lot of students say, I didn't get excellent grades. Can I still go to college? Absolutely, you can still go to college. Based on certain colleges may not accept you, and certain ones will. Certain schools require above a 3.0, but there's a lot of colleges, especially HBCUs, that give you chances. They also graduate almost 25% of all African Americans throughout the United States. That little 3%, that little 107 HBCUs versus almost 5,000 colleges and universities, they still graduate 25%. Why? Because it's more personal, they're smaller, students get more support. Not only that, they offer more services. I went to an HBCU. I was a high school dropout. HBCU was the best experience of my life. I received 2 degrees in 5 years at Norfolk State University. So I know the power of HBCUs. And so you may have had a struggling semester, which many students do. Many of our students face a lot of challenges. And sometimes it's hard to get into some of these colleges that they want to go to. But there's a lot of other schools that will accept you, that have the same excellent education, quality education. You can still receive a quality education. So also, if you have a 2.0 GPA, for example, there's some schools out there that will accept you. That you have had a struggling time, maybe a year or two, but you should put it in your essay as well, because you turn a negative situation into a positive situation. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So we already know, and I say this to my students, if you have A's and B's, everybody wants A's and B's. But that A's and B's does not mean a lot of our students have a lot of different challenges. But of course, people do look at your grades when you're getting a job. They ask for your college transcripts. So what are your good grades, B's and C's, and what are decent grades, and what are struggling grades, C's and D's? If you do have C's and D's and you still have a certain GPA, you still can apply to certain schools, but I always recommend students to either go to use Khan Academy to strengthen your skills, your academic skills. It's a free service. Also, if you have any type of virtual type of courses like Edgenuity and things like that, where you can maybe take your course over. So that's something you should discuss with your counselor. These are for students that may have had some grades on their transcript that they're trying to of course alleviate and get better grades, and see if you can work with your counselor and see if your school district will allow that. I know our school district, if a student has it after they go to summer school, or we give them an opportunity to go to Edgenuity so they can bring their grades up, and that is a benefit for them. Now, what do scholarship judges look like? And organizations look for? Well, keep in mind, these are real people just like you. Most of them are using a rubric. They know the difference between a student writing an essay and an adult writing an essay. When the essay is better than a professor, then we know that someone paid someone for the essay. A lot of students come to me and say, Dr. Rodriguez, how come I didn't get a scholarship? I got a higher GPA and I really wrote a really outstanding essay. Well, if you wrote a real good essay, I don't see why not. And I read the essay. I said, did you write this essay? Well, I did get some help, because the language doesn't sound like a high school student. It sounds more of a scholastic professor. So that's probably why you didn't receive an essay, receive a scholarship. So you have students with lower GPA. They want you to write a really good, meaningful essay, like a high school student. We know and I'm being honest with you, I used to give out scholarships myself. And when I was at Norfolk State, I know when a student writes an essay, and I know when someone else has written it for them. So be very, very careful there. Write your own essay. You can have help editing it, but it should be the student's essay. Presentation and delivery are very important. Avoid fancy fonts, colors, and designs. Postmark versus deadline. Apply on time. A lot of times they do use the postmark deadline. It just depends. If you're not clear on something, pick up the phone. They normally have an email or a number. Call them and ask. Also, if there's a deadline that's approaching and you just found out yesterday, but you need to get some letters of recommendation, call them, call the organization who's offering the scholarship and ask them. Say, I just heard of this yesterday. If I sent the application, can I send the additional documents later as I start, getting my information that I need? In many cases, they'll work with you. Okay, so just letting you know, call and find out. Don't just give up, because there may be a scholarship that you really want, and you may say, "Oh, it's too late." If you don't ask, you'll never know. Okay. Also, on judges, sorry, I've been talking all day. Turn a challenging life situation into a learning experience. And how did it help you grow? I have a lot of students when they're writing their essay, and I says, we know kids go through challenge. That's the norm. There's no one's perfect. We know that. We try to be, but it doesn't happen that way. And so we know that students, there's a form of behavior sometimes the students may display during their adolescence that maybe have a girlfriend or a boyfriend that took them off track when they were doing well academically, maybe their first boyfriend in high school, and then they lose focus and the grades drop. But then the next year, you don't have a boyfriend anymore, and your grades go back up. And we as recruiters or people offering you scholarship, we look, I wonder what happened. Or it could have been tragic, horrific event in your family, or someone was, gravely sick or passed away or something. It impacts you. Write about it and what you learned from it. Because sometimes I've done it. I mean, for my students when I was a dynamis and I used to work for Norfolk State and I was a dynamis recruiter, I've had some that, and I've given them full ride scholarships and they met the minimum GPA of 3.3 GPA and met the ACT of 21. And I've offered them that versus the student that had the 4.0. Why? Because his mother, he still kept maintained. He was able to handle stress, and that's what they like. If you're able to handle stress, that means the retention will be better, because many times students go off to college the first year. I've offered money to students for the first year to college, and guess what? They get homesick, or their self-esteem drops. They're not confident. They're not able to handle pressure, and they want to go home. So when you turn, this is very important, when you turn a challenging life situation into a learning experience and how you learn from it, that's very powerful for an essay. So if that is you may want to think about what was your challenge and what did you learn from it? Because we can tell on an essay, on a transcript, your grades. We know that, okay, something happened here. I wonder what happened. And sometimes we want to know. And so that's a determining factor for us to give you that scholarship. And I've given a lot of students scholarships in that fashion. Also apply only if you're eligible. Now, if it's saying a 3.0 and you said you got a 2.98, they're saying 3.0. They're not going to drop it, I'm going to be honest, in most cases. Because if they do that, then they have to drop it for everybody else. And that changes the whole dynamics. But if you may have a 3.0 GPA, but maybe it didn't meet one of the criteria and you want to substitute with another criteria, maybe you don't have a lot of leadership, but you have a lot of community service, you may want to ask them that. So it's nothing wrong with asking. Complete the application in full. Do not leave any questions blank because they're thinking that you probably didn't answer it or overlooked it. If it does not apply, just put not applicable. Follow directions. So if they're asking for a 300-word essay and you provide them a 1,000-word essay, you just didn't follow the directions. So for me, when students don't follow the directions, I says, well, they didn't do what I asked them to do. I put them in another stack. And I don't worry about, I'm focusing on the ones that have completed an accurate application, follow directions, neatness counts, write an essay that makes a strong impression with passion, something that you strongly believe in, because we know that passion is the drive, right? So always talk from your heart and be passionate in your essay, where you can illustrate. And we can imagine when we're reading, you're illustrating your story, and we're imagining, we're feeling what we're reading. So make it powerful. That's why passion is so important. Make sure your application gets to where it needs to get to. Keep a backup file, because once you give that file to them, once you submit that, they're not, in most cases, they will not give you a copy back, because you should have done that from the get-go, right? So also keep up a backup USB, because sometimes you're going to always alter that same essay. You may add to it or take away and want to name it differently, but I want to give you fair warning when you're writing your essay. We know that many students use the same essay to the various schools. They may alter a little bit. However, what happens is that students forget in the middle of the paragraph that there may be in another school, and you mention that school and you're sending it to somewhere else, and then you say, well, I really want to attend Hampton University, but you're sending it to Norfolk State. I've seen that a lot. And that's kind of, okay, they didn't really take pride. I'll put them in line 13. I'll come back later if I don't have enough students to look at. So be careful, okay? Give it a final look, overlook, and ask someone to edit for you. It's okay for someone to edit it for you. I edit my foster children's essays when they went off to college. Your intro needs to be definitely powerful, okay? And I'm going to give you some examples to help you down the road in a few minutes. Don't forget about community service and leadership. They're totally different things, okay? Leadership is something that you're leading. Most scholarships are for community service, but when you're looking for full ride, like Ivy Leagues, you're looking for a full ride like Denemis, or those full ride scholarships maybe at Jackson State, Tennessee State, that flow into Meharry College. They want something. They want community service and leadership, because they're offering full ride scholarships. And leadership is different. So if you're in student body, or if you've done something in your community, if you don't have leadership, a recommendation is you may want to go to a nonprofit, see what's needed in your own community, because you're a global citizen. That teaches global citizenship as well. But go into your community, like what I had from some of my seniors that didn't have any leadership. They had the grades, they had APs, some of them had IBs. They did a lot of community service. They were great kids, but they didn't have leadership under the belt. And that's because they were so involved. One of them played sports, so he was a captain, so you can use that as a leadership. However, you may want to start something else, like maybe get some cell phones for battered women. I had a student collect, all she needed was supposed to collect 50. She collected over 150, 200. I don't know how many, but a lot. And that because those phones are still good and you can still call 911. And this is at the Marjorie Mason for battered women, where the women go to hide because they've been abused, but they need a cell phone. So that was a good service. And there's different things you can do. You can do something with the senior citizens. You don't have that under your belt and you're applying for certain scholarships. So I would recommend you do that as quickly as possible. Okay, personal statement, as I mentioned before, most scholarships require either a personal statement, topic essay, or a prompt question. Like the UCs here have 8 prompt questions. You select 4 of those prompt questions that you're interested in writing about, and they ask up to 350 words. Don't go over 350, because we read a lot. And when you're reading thousands, we know that you want to express yourself. That's why it's so critical that you do that at the beginning of the essay. Like my foster daughter, she wrote a really good one. I said, well, you got to move this to the top. Of course, I had to have her edit it a little bit. You need to be concise, to the point. So she's a foster child. She started off with foster kids only represent 3% of college graduates across the United States. I refuse to be another statistic. That will engage with a reader to say, oh, wow, let me read a little further. And then she told her story. Also, if you live in a community that has a high poverty rate, mention that. Talk about something that's powerful and why you want to major in this and why you need that funding. It's very, very important to be passionate. Like here, I tell my students, we live in one of the most concentrated poverty cities in America, here in Fresno, California. We also have one of the highest poverty rate, highest asthma. We're telling 2 cities. So, and we also farmland. We feed the whole world. So we have a lot of economically distressed communities within the community. So sometimes I tell my students, why you want to be a doctor? Okay, well, you have to wait 4 or 5 months to see a physician. You want to support your community, and that's what inspired you to be a physician or maybe a nurse or whatever. But talk about that. Please do not talk about your parent the whole essay, because then we want to recruit your parent and offer them the scholarship. A lot of times students put their parents, which is fine because they're so proud of their parents. However, they want to know who you are. They want to know your thoughts. They want to know what is your attributes, your ambitions, and your career path. What do you want to do? When you start talking about your parent, everything your parent has done, then it's that essay's focused more on your parent. It's good to maybe mention 1 or 2, no more than 2 sentences about your parents. Okay, that they've been a strong force in your life and been very supportive, and that's why you're a high achieving student, or maybe that's why you're graduating from high school. Because I wasn't a high achieving student because I had a lot of issues, and my mother was still a strong force, but we believed in family at that time because we were very poor, and it was about eating and things like that. That was more important then. But my mother always wanted me to go to college, and that's why I went back to college at the age 37. And so I only had a GED. So I tell my story. And so it's very powerful, and it also encourages other people. So that's what I'm talking about when you're writing your essay, okay? Also, don't wait till the last minute. Have someone look at it. That's why it's good. It's important that you write it maybe like in your junior year. Start writing it, and you're going to edit it. And the more you edit it and pick it, you put it down, you pick it up, you edit it. Oh, I want to add this, or maybe I want to take that out. So you want someone to look at it. Now, I would recommend you download the actual planning kit, the capix.com. There's like 17, 19 pages. It asks you a lot of questions that breaks it down in elements where you're doing bits and pieces, where then you would have a very strong essay at the end, because you'll learn from this planning kit from Capix, which, by the way, has $11 billion worth of scholarships as well. So I would recommend you create an account there, okay? Also, writing your personal statement. Okay, this just a breakdown for you. I already mentioned it. I already went over this. But tell us about yourself, your family, where you're from. Tell us about an academic or extracurricular interest. Tell us why and how the scholarship will benefit you. Show us an imaginative side. And this for those families that make a lot of money, and you may say, oh, they're always for low income, blah, 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 certain majors. You sometimes parents have a lot of bills. Maybe there's more people in the family. Sometimes you may want to say that this is my hard work. Because I've had students say that, and it's right. This is my hard work. What does my parents' income have to do with all the work that I have put in? This is what I worked hard towards. Although they make their money, but I'm moving on with my life, getting my degree. Sometimes when you say that, again, we're normal people when we're reading these. So sometimes it's not always just low income. It's a high achieving merit student as well. Okay. And if you know that anybody's having a essay workshop in the community, I would take advantage of that. Definitely take advantage of that. And check your grammar again. Always check your grammar. So this is just what you need, why you need letters of recommendation. It validates your essay. Also request it. They normally say 2 weeks. I don't say 2 weeks. I'm going to be honest with you. I've been doing this for 30 plus years, 6 weeks. I ask my students, give me 6 weeks. There's no way I can have something done for them in 2 weeks. Why? Because I get busy. I'm at meetings all the time, doing things in the community. I have over 6,000 seniors, but remember, we're the 3rd largest school district. We have 73,000 students. I'm the only one person in my district that does what I do. I'm a trainer. So I need an extra time. Not only that, I'll be able to write my students a really nice essay. So I'm always trying to give slack to the educators. Why? Because I know that they work very hard to serve students. And counselors will appreciate you giving them 6 weeks in advance notice, and then follow up every 2 weeks. So if you're a senior, regardless if you haven't applied, or you're a rising senior, you're a junior, start asking in August, September. So when you start applying, you'll have it ready. Be strategic, so that way you can plan. Don't wait till the last minute. I tell my students, you put in 10%, you get back 10%. You put in 100%, you get back 100%. That's the way it works. Remember that these people have a lot on their plate, especially counselors. So, and then follow up after 2 weeks after you gave it to them. Follow, hey, how's this going? And give them also an educational resume. If you don't have one, I'm going to ask our Teresa to post it on the website along with this PowerPoint. I'll put it up there. It's just an example. It's an educational resume that will help you. It also helps us. Sometimes I appreciate those. Why? Because I can scan through it. And then if I'm interested in something else, then I'll go ahead and read more. But that educational resume is really a fast, it's good with the eyes. Okay. Obtain at least 3 minimum. I always say 9, but 3 minimum, one for a counselor, one from a school administrator, and maybe a community leader. But remember that everybody writes different. And there may be some qualities that stand out if someone else wrote it. So just it depends, okay? But if you ask far in advance and you have good rapport with your teachers, your counselors, your administrators, I would ask them to write you. Okay, provide the requested information for recommendations. As I mentioned, an educational research, educational resume. I'm doing my research right now, and I think that word is just sticking to my brain. Pursuing, by the way, my 4th degree, my 2nd master's. I'll be writing my book about how to serve families because it's so important that educators don't just give the surface, that we go deep down into what is it that you really need to know to be successful in college. Make copies and keep the original. Make copies. Don't give them the original, not unless they want the original, and you scan it, but you're going to scan everything. Make sure it's color when you scan it so you have your different files on your USB, okay? And make sure the letters are clean, copies are clean. And when you're receiving your letters of recommendation from whomever, make sure they're on letterhead, okay? This is just an example. So if it's from a science teacher, if you're going to the Ivy Leagues, they require 2. And Ivy Leagues, you can get in free if you make less than $65,000. And if you're a rising junior, then you may want to, and you're low income, you may want to also go to some of their programs where they'll fly you onto their campus because they're trying to recruit you. And we'll talk about that as well. So this is just recommendations. I know I'm talking fast, but we got a lot of slides to go through. And normally I scan through them, but I want to kind of go over the main pieces here. Reason why is because a lot of students really don't know how to acquire this information. It's very, very critical if you're getting scholarships, okay? So they should be from the various people. So here, your pastor, community organization, and make sure they're on letterhead. I kept this one on here. Actually, you have one as well. At the end of this presentation, I'm going to go to your website, your DC. I know that it's the DC CAP. When I was at Norfolk State, we had students from DC and Maryland. I think it was a DC incentive grant where they really end up paying in-state tuition at Norfolk State University. So that's in Virginia. So it's more of a collaboration. It's an exchange program. Every part of the United States has it. However, New York and DC area, they have their own. But as you can see, this is just an example. People that live in the various states of Texas, Florida, all those states, they get a tuition break of $15,467. Now, DC gets it as well. But they're not part of a program like in the Western Undergraduate Exchange for Western region of California. We have 16 states, including Hawaii and Alaska, that we have an exchange program with. And then you have, of course, the Academic Common Market. And then you have the New Hampshire area, those states up there, they exchange students can go to another state and get that in-state tuition that's within that region. So as you can see, there's numerous states. We have 16 states, the Academic Common app, they have maybe about 12, 13, which also includes Virginia. But DC also, if I'm not mistaken, I haven't worked at Norfolk State for over 16 years, but I used to work student accounts and financial aid. So I'm very familiar with how it worked. And they used to have a DC incentive grant. So check out what area or what states if you wanted to go outside. Now, keep in mind, Maryland just won a lawsuit, $577 million for 4 of their HBCUs, University of Maryland Eastern Shore, Bowie, and Morgan State. I don't know what the other one is. I don't know if I just don't remember what the other college HBCU is. But they do have a website. At the end of the presentation, I'll go over that with you, okay? This is just showing the states here. As I mentioned, this is 2017. This is how their website, and this comes from their state. So we're going to, again, at the end of this presentation, we're going to go into your state. I did put this together because it's so critical that families understand that there's different types of money. And what I found in working with my families and doing the surveys, that they wanted something to break. They don't understand what's the difference between federal, state, institutional, private. How does that work? Pell Grant is federal, and they base it on family income. SEOG, if you receive Pell, SEOG, Supplemental Educational Opportunities Grant, is a grant that these universities receive as well, but that's some first come, first serve, just like that work study. Now, many times students complete that FAFSA like around November, December, and in many cases that SEOG and that work study is already depleted. Why? Because it's based on first come, first serve, and they give it to the low income students that apply early. So the early bird gets the worm, so apply early. If you're a junior, you're a senior, well, of course, you already applied. But October 1st is the time to apply for FAFSA. Make sure that you get that work study. Now, Teach Grant is something else. Teach Grant, they don't care how much your parents make. The Teach Grant, because of the need of teachers throughout the United States, they give you, if, for example, you are low income, you get the Pell Grant, they even give you SEOG because of need. Then you want to be a teacher in a certain subject area that state is in need of, and you want to be a teacher, that's another $4,000. That is $16,000. So, and they'll give you $4,000 each year. But keep in mind, they also give you $8,000 for master's program. So look into the federal programs as well. Okay. Then you have the state. I have Florida's here, but you have broken down. So do we. California, we have the Cal Grant A, B, and C, institutional grants, middle class scholarship grants. We have all the different ones, and you do too in your region. So here's Florida. So state grants, but keep in mind, in order for you to get your state grant, you have to complete your FAFSA. So you have to, here we had a California Pell Grant. For example, if my students wanted here in California, if they wanted to go to the UCs, they get a grant of $12,570 each year, but they have to have a FAFSA on file, right? And then they also have a program there if students make less than $80,000, if parents make less than $80,000 for my students, they get a full ride to, if they get into the UCs, it's a full ride to the UCs, room, board, tuition, fees covered. The blue and gold, and their Cal Grant covers their room and board. So there's a lot of opportunities. You have the same in the DC, Maryland, all that area, all the states do. And I'm going to give you an example again at the end of this presentation. Then you have institutional scholarships. Do you know how much scholarships that these institutions actually have? Of course, the Ivy Leagues, Harvard sits on 40 plus billion dollars, not million, $billion. And 20% of their students receive assistance. They're trying to reach 30%. 20% pay zero to attend the Ivy Leagues. So a lot of people are not aware of that. So, and it's not just 65,000, even if you make 100,000, if they want you, they're private, they can make their own decisions. So even at the HBCUs, when I recruited for STEM for the science, technology, engineering, and math under Dunamis, I was a Dunamis recruiter. I have 22 students that are MDs today. They're doctors. They're on a full ride scholarship. So there's all kind of programs. You got to learn how to learn about programs, not just getting into school. If you're a high achieving student, there's programs there with you that are tied into these high tier universities. I have actually 3 of my kids, but 2 of them are getting their PhD. The third one went to Virginia State, free ride. She was on an 1890 scholarship. We're going to talk about those. Then she went to Virginia Tech, debt free, because they recruited her because of that program. Now she was offered the PhD program at Virginia Tech. So that's how it works. Programs are really great opportunities to look at, not just the scholarships, because programs are on full ride scholarships. Military as well. Parents may be in the military. You are in the DC area. You are in the military area. So you have all kind of different types. You have the Afghanistan scholarships. You also have parents that may have done service. And you have different types of scholarships there that goes through Veterans Affairs. If your parents were in the military, you may want to talk to them and see what kind of opportunities are there, if there's any for you, okay? Need-based, need-blind, that's exactly what it means, that if you got into a school and that school may be offering need-blind, meaning that if you get in and they find out you make less than 65,000, 80,000, whatever the amount may be, then they will offer you a full ride scholarship. Merit scholarship, a lot of times, well, my families make too much, we're not eligible. Never think that way. There's all the schools, these especially private schools, they can make certain, I've seen it, out of my 30 plus years, I have seen decisions made. Benedict just made an excellent decision on my student. That was really a great student, but he had some things that went on in his life that deteriorated his self-esteem. And mom does not want him in Fresno. And he got a scholarship, and he's attending Benedict, and families happy to everybody's dorm information. This happened within a week's time. So you never know. And this is to motivate you. This is to inspire you. This is to help you. Don't give up, okay? Never give up. So there's all kind of opportunities out there. Also, private scholarships. I'm a Delta. We give out scholarships in my sorority. A lot of sororities and fraternities, they give out scholarships. We have scholarships in our city. You have scholarships in your city. All you have to do is Google it. Go in and say any scholarships for minority students or for female students in the DC area. All you have to do is do that. We have Kiwanis, we have PG&E covering student scholarships. We have our some congregations giving out scholarships. The Kiwanis Bears, the Elks Lodge. I'm also a member of the Elks Lodge. You may want to check your Elks Lodge in your area. Elks throughout the United States give out $3.5 million of scholarships. They normally pick out 2 or 3 kids. They offer them $50,000 scholarships. Then they have smaller scholarships. So these are organizations that have committed their mission to support their community by building scholarships for their students. Okay. This is Florida's information, so I'm going to go through that real quick. Where are the Ivies? Well, we know that there's only 8 Ivies, but there's a lot of public Ivies, 8 public Ivies, and there's also the baby Ivies, and there's about 40 or 50 of those. What are baby Ivies? Baby Ivies may be the other schools like Vassar College up in the New York area. Maybe Swarthmore College, Swarthmore College right out of Philadelphia. That's one of the top 3 liberal arts schools in the nation. You get in there and your family makes less than $65,000. It's a free ride. Again, room, board, tuition, and fees. But you need to know where all these places are, and there's a lot. It's all here. I can't give it to you fully. I can give you some of it, but I can help you know how to navigate it, okay? So here are the 8 Ivies, and there's about 80 or 90 schools that offer that, and they also have fly-in programs. What does that mean? That means that you need to apply. You need to go into their website. If you're interested in the school and you feel that you got the grades to attend these schools, they're very competitive, but they do support people of color because they're trying to increase more students attending these universities, okay? So these are my students back in 2011. That's me right there. This is at Columbia. So here are the 8 public Ivies. These are considered and recognized as public Ivies. The University of Michigan, the UCs. Here are UCs. All of our 9, 10 UCs, our UC systems. UC Berkeley, UC Davis, UC Merced, UC Riverside, UCLA. So all of those UCs are considered a public Ivy. And what does that mean? That means they're comparable to the Ivy Leagues. There's only 8 Ivies throughout the United States, okay? Through the world, 8 Ivies. And these schools are comparable in all standards, meaning their curriculum, their rigor, their division, all of that. So these are great schools also. College of William & Mary is the 2nd oldest school in the nation. Yale is the 3rd oldest. So there's a lot of great opportunities at these schools that also offer need-blind, need-based. Okay, I know I'm talking, but I just want to make sure I give you this knowledge. It's long, but it's so worth it when you start learning more and more, because it may not be for your student, but you may have a niece, you may have a cousin, you may have a friend that you can share this. Oh, hey, her student does well in that area, and she may fit in and get a free ride. But if you don't know and don't share, you'll never know, right? So here are the 8 Ivies, like Brown, Harvard, Yale, Columbia, Dartmouth, Cornell, Princeton, and UPenn. Those are the 8 Ivies. And then here are the baby Ivies, Bates. That's where, Robert Kennedy went to school. That's where a lot of the Kennedys go to school, in the New Hampshire area, Vermont area, Amherst, Westland, Middlebury, MIT, Vassar, Stanford, West Point, the UC systems. These schools offer the same thing, need-blind, need-based. So families' incomes less than $65,000, they'll receive the tuition fee, room and board paid. They pay $0. The only thing they probably have to pay is when they go back and forth and visit, if they need to visit you from campus. Now, you can afford these schools. Why? Because they're, in many cases, they're much less than the state cost, the schools that you're attending at your state school. So they're more affordable than the public universities. So that's something you need to know about, okay? Also, I just put this in here, the endowments. Endowments at all the universities have some form of endowment. But as you can see for Harvard, this is old. This is a 2015 slide. So Harvard at that time was almost at 40 billion, but there are more. And you have Yale right behind them, Texas, Princeton, Stanford, MIT, Texas A&M. These other schools also offer need blind, need based, by the way, so you can see how huge their endowments, and these are billions of dollars, not millions. Okay, so I wanted to share that with you. So this is just another slide, first year applications, how to apply for the Ivy Leagues. You definitely go through the Common App, okay, and they also sometimes have fee waivers there for you. So you just need to do a lot of reading, students. Sometimes it's a requirement. Read. This is a tip, and this is something that I hope that you take my advice or this prescription that I'm about to provide to you. And this is not to how you say to target anybody or anything like that. This is real from the heart. We know a lot of students are on social media. We know that's a given. But if you just take 50% away from the social media and apply it to your future, I think that's fair. Don't you think that's fair? I guarantee you will learn a lot. So that as much time you spend on the social media and your cell phones and all that, cut that in half and use the other time in preparing for your future in your life. Okay, that's just something that I feel that I have to tell all students, because you're so valuable, especially our students of color. We need you. We need for you to fill those gaps, and we need you in those leading positions. And we know that you can receive these degrees. We know that. I know that. Sometimes you may not know that because some of the challenges, but if someone tells you that you're worthy, then you are worthy. Even if you have that low GPA, but you need that support. Again, I had a 1.1 GPA, and someone told me that, and I have to share it the same way she told me. I want to share it with you because that sparked something in my mind and in my heart, and that's to do better. And I did. I received 2 degrees in 5 years, and she told me, she says, you put in 10%, you get back 10%. You put in 100%, you get back 100%. And I put in 100%, and that's why I graduated cum laude, Alpha Sigma Lambda, and Golden Key. And last grade I completed in high school was 11th grade, and all I had was a GED. So I'm saying this for a reason. Even if you say, well, I'm not Ivy League material, who knows? You may be. You may go into transfer student. So you never know. So look at this. If you're interested in the Ivy Leagues, please apply. I always encourage students to apply to Ivy Leagues if they can, even if you have a 3.3 GPA. Don't think it's always for the 4.0 GPAs. Remember this, they accept you on the holistic approach. What have you done? Yes, take some AP courses, and yes, it's going to be harder, and yes, it's a lot of rigor. But if you plan accordingly, you can go to any school you want, okay? This opportunity to visit the Ivy Leagues. It's a PEAK program. This one's at the UPenn. They're always telling me to send my kids. And as this is an old slide, but basically I just want to just kind of show you that you apply like in September. As you can see, application deadlines in September. So if you're a rising junior and you want to apply to any of those programs that fly you in, look at I'm going to give you the list of the schools that do offer it. And what you can do is you can apply. For example, here at UPenn, they have a 900 spots, and they recruit 100. They'll fly in 100 students. They'll put you up, they'll feed you, stay on campus 2 or 3 days, and they send you back home because they're trying to, that's not a guarantee that you're going to get in, but they want to show you their school and they're interested in you. So always apply, okay, if you can. I put this together so you can kind of see a scale, 0 to 65. The average grant, this is this is last year's, the grant is a little bit larger now. What does it cover? Full tuition, college fees, or college-free room and board. I meant to say college fee there, but this grant is $67,350. But what if my family makes $85,000 to $100,000? Well, they still cover 100% of tuition and fees, which is about almost $60,000. They cover 50% of your room and board. You have to cover the other 50%. But sometimes families don't have that either. Then they'll get you a job on campus. So there's ways that I have families that made $150,000 to $180,000 that didn't pay anything. So it's just based on need and what you let them know. You may have some special circumstances. So always ask. Nothing wrong with asking. So these are fly-in programs I want to share with you. So here's Columbia, UPenn, Dartmouth, MIT, Amherst, Johns Hopkins, Vassar, Emory, and Carnegie Mellon, Bowdoin, Colgate, Washington. So these are various schools. Liberal arts. We have a lot of students that have say, well, I'm not a STEM person. I'm not a math person. Well, remember Swarthmore is a liberal arts school. Okay, 3rd best liberal arts school in the nation. So if you're a student majoring in the arts, you may want to consider that school because that's also a need blind, need based. So just kind of know how to navigate that. So your parents will be very happy. They don't have to pay anything. If you can cover, that will cover all your tuition, right? So here's just an example of a great essay. This young man got accepted to all of the 8 Ivies. So this is just a portion of what was important, that was meaningful in his essay. So this is just a great example. If you want to take a snapshot of that, please do so. Like my foster daughter, she started off the first paragraph giving statistics on foster children, and she refused to be another statistic that foster kids only 3% receive 4-year degrees. So that was a really good intro. And so then the body of the meat or the body of the actual essay is very powerful. So you may want to look at this and when you're writing your essay for scholarships. This is a Common App. I urge you to use the Common App. This is the only way you can apply for the Ivies, but a lot of other schools, this is a one-stop shop for your counselors or your teachers to write letters of recommendation, because then it's in one place. And so that they don't have to send it to various schools. It's here in this one place. And so Common App, this is a really great resource as well. I would recommend you go there and you do your research. Another thing is not everybody has a 3.0 and above GPA. They may have a 2.5. They may even have a 2.0 GPA. But remember, there's a new scholarship that's by the College Board. It's at cb.org/opportunity. And all they care about is to offer this scholarship is that you apply to a college. There's no specific GPA, no SATs, no essay. So go to their website, look at their official rules, see how you may be able to potentially receive a scholarship. Here's one of my students here, actually not one, a couple of them. This is at Norfolk State's Douglas Wilder Performing Arts Center, and this is my students that were graduating from the ROTC program. There's money there as well. A lot of times students join the military and they have a decent GPA, 2.8, 3.0, 3.1. You can also go to college and join the ROTC program, go to college 4 years and get commissioned as an officer, getting orders, taking orders. So there's opportunities there too in the ROTC, especially for students of color, African American and Hispanic students. So because of the underrepresentation of officers. So a lot of the HBCUs have these various programs. Sometimes I think the Army, I think here at our school, local school here is like a 2.5, 2.6 GPA. So if you're interested in the military, this is another form of resource for you that you can look into. National and community service, this is AmeriCorps. They will pay you 2 grants, but you would have to volunteer. There's the number. The age is no longer 17. I thought I read lately 18, but this has been around forever. This is National Community Service. You need to find out in your community where they are, and they will send 2 checks, one each time, so long as you volunteer. Like my one student who teaches now at Dorsey High School in LA, Los Angeles. He was in Norfolk State, but lived out of Philadelphia, came from Philadelphia. And I used to say, Scooter, I said, where did you do your volunteer work? He said, I did at the Boys and Girls Club. And because the first time I saw it then, it was $4,000. I saw a $4,000 check come across my desk when I worked student accounts. And I asked, well, what is AmeriCorps? Because I didn't know it was AmeriCorps. It was my first time as well here, and that was a long time ago. And he told me. And so I've been promoting that ever since. Now the award is $4,725. And if you're a counselor or you're someone that has loans already, you can also volunteer and they'll pay off your loan. So look into it. They pay educational expenses, they repay qualified student loans, and they also forbearance and accrued interest payments. Because I'm going to utilize them when I retire. So this is a really a great resource for you students. Two awards at $4,725 that you can receive, pay your tuition. Okay, now we're going to talk about historically Black colleges. I'm just going to briefly go through these schools. What and where are they? Well, we know that there's 107. They're also referred to not only historically Black colleges, but predominant Black colleges and universities. There's 107 HBCUs that the White House initiatives recognize as HBCUs. 20 states in the South. North Carolina has the largest, which they have 9, and Norfolk has 7. HBCUs offer a lot of scholarships, and as I mentioned, since you are in the DC and Maryland area, Morgan State has the highest federal grant of $28 million from the Department of Education. They had that first grant in efforts to produce more NASA engineers, scientists, and aviators, like pilots. Now, in February last year, 2020, Maryland's HBCUs won a $576 $7 million lawsuit that will support 4 of the HBCUs in Maryland. FYI, find out what it is. They may have more scholarship opportunities, more internship opportunities, but there's more money funding there. So look into that. Also, summer internships. One thing about the HBCUs I love about them is they have great summer internships. You don't have to pay for them. They normally pay you. Also, there's merit scholarships. And then also the 1890 land-grant schools like Tuskegee, Alabama A&M, Elkhorn, Lincoln University. There's so many schools out there that are land-grant schools that will give you the 4-year, and we're going to go into that will actually award you, covers your tuition, room and boards, books, laptop, printer, paid internships for 4 years. And the reason why is because I have 6 of my students that have gone through this program, and 2 of them already graduated from Prairie View in Texas, and both of them, one just graduated this December from Purdue, the other one is at Purdue on a full ride. Yes, these programs are excellent. So look into the 1890. They're at HBCUs, all of the 19 HBCUs, which I'm going to show you in a few minutes, but they also have them for this Hispanic Association of Colleges, Universities. So there's various, for minority students, there's various funding out there for students under the USDA, under the United States Department of Agriculture. People say, well, I don't want to be a farmer. Keep in mind, my nephew just graduated from Lincoln University in Missouri. He went in with a 2.3, graduated 3.7 in environmental biology, and he's working for the USDA, and he studies water, soil, and mud. So there's different majors that you can pursue. You can be a food nutritionist, you can be a doctor. There's various types of majors, but you need to educate yourself so you know all of this funding that's out there. Also, these are the 19 land-grant schools: Alabama A&M, as you can see, Elkhorn, Delaware, Florida A&M, FAMU, Fort Valley State, Kentucky State, Langston, Lincoln University, North Carolina A&T, Prairie View, South Carolina. These schools all offer the 1890 Scholar Program. If you Google it right now, say 1890 Scholars Program 2122 application, I would start completing the application and look at the criteria. I think you have to have like a 3.3 or GPA, and maybe a 22 ACT or 23 ACT, community service, leadership. Get involved in your community. And if you're a 9th grader, there's scholarships up for you too as well. But if you're a 9th, 10th grader, then you need to get more involved in your community if you want these types of opportunities, okay? Because there's a lot of great opportunities out there. These are the programs. I did this because a lot of students always say, well, I want to be a farmer. Well, that's because they don't know. And that's why it's so important that we share this information with you. Aggie business. I tell my students, Aggie business, you can, if you're a business major, go in Aggie business. That's just going to broaden your skills into various job markets. That's all it's going to do. It's still business, but it's agriculture. You can work for a school district, managing their food nutrition. You can work for a nonprofit. You can work for the federal government. There's all kinds of jobs out there, right? Or maybe you want to go into other majors. You may want to go into financial management. Look at that. So forestry. There may be, like we have the Yosemite National Park and Sequoia National Park here in this region. And so students can work up in that area. So look up the major, look up at these programs. They're great programs. University of Maryland, Eastern Shore, they have great programs. And that's a land-grant school, by the way. University of Maryland, Eastern Shore. They have the 1890 land-grant on their campus, okay? So this also, there's scholarships with the Thurgood Marshall scholarships. That student right there is not only my friend, but he's one of my students. He attended Norfolk State University. He's the executive VP of business development for Thurgood Marshall, and that's George Spencer. But there's a lot of scholarships there. Go to the Thurgood Marshall website. Go to the UNCF website. Here I have the HBCUs with medical programs. There's 5 of them. Right now, Mahari is promoting, I already got like 3 emails. I think Teresa says she got like 10 emails. But already this program's not just started. That program's been around for years. I think it's a 6-7-year program. You go to, is it Jackson State or Tennessee State? Tennessee State, and it goes into the Mahari Medical School. And it's a great program. Morehouse has a School of Medicine. Charles Drew in Los Angeles is also a School of Medicine. Even though we still consider it an HBCU, and it's starting to be recognized more as an HBCU, but yet and still we really don't have an HBCU in the West Coast, but I identify them as an HBCU because there's a large number of African Americans studying at School of Medicine there. Okay, Howard University, Xavier University. So these are programs. Now keep in mind, these are schools that have medical school, but that does not mean that you can attend another HBCU and major in certain majors like what I used to recruit for Norfolk State. Like I mentioned earlier, I have 22 students that are medical doctors today. And I have a lot of them that are computer science majors. Some went to Johns Hopkins. Some of them went through because we have partnerships. Keep in mind that all the HBCUs, well, I would say majority of them, the larger ones as well, have partnerships and to these high-tier universities. My program was a joint program with Eastern Virginia Medical School. That's where they did the first in vitro fertilization, the first test tube baby, basically. She's like 40-something, 42, I don't know, 45 years old now. But they also, this is a school that's recognized for cloning. So this is an exceptional school. Now, what you don't know, and I like to share with students, is that when kids go to med school, they have to, of course, go to the schools and be there for the summer. They have signed a contract. There's different programs, so check with the school that you're interested in. But in my school, because I used to recruit for this school, and this was my program, that's why I can talk about you waive the MCAT. Look at the last sentence. So if there's anybody here going to medical school, it says when applying to medical school, including waiver of the MCAT, if you decide to go to Norfolk State and do that dual degree program joint with Eastern Virginia Medical School, which is like a few blocks down the road from Norfolk State. So yes, waive the MCAT. There's a waiver. What does that mean? Wow, you don't have to take the MCAT? That's what a lot of students are hesitant. Why? It's because the underrepresentation of African Americans and Latinos, but primarily African Americans in the area of medicine. And so we need to make sure that these opportunities are known for students, especially at HBCUs. And you're there. In my program, you had to be, every summer, you sign a contract, you come the year before you got accepted, in the summer before you got accepted, you're there every summer, 6-week to 7-week program where you have the scientists, doctors working with you, giving you hands-on knowledge. So we had one with Duke, we had one Eastern Virginia Medical School, Johns Hopkins, and Harvard. So all of the other HBCUs have the same. I just don't know which schools that they partner with. Some of them may be the same that we partner with. So look into it if you're interested in this major. This is another student, one of my students. She's the first African-American PhD in astrophysics from Yale University, but she received her first 4-year under the Denemis Science and Applied Science at Norfolk State University. So she went on, and because of the partnerships with Vanderbilt and all these other schools in that program, she moved on and went to Yale, and now she is an astrophysicist. She studies supermassive black holes in space. So it's the physics of blazars, something like that. So also there's these other schools that do the same thing. So I would, if you're interested in those types of majors, that's all STEM. That's what they offer. So great opportunities for students. Now, we're going to talk about community service that's needed for your scholarships. Community service scholarships are offered by many corporations and private foundations to encourage service learning. So we, as people of color, including myself, this is what I'm doing right now is all volunteer because it's the right thing to do. We have to get back to our community. We have to build capacity within our own communities. If we don't teach our students that you have to do volunteer and be a global citizen, then there's going to be opportunities that's going to go out the window. So this is why we need to push and promote more community service and more leadership. Not to put on your essay, I did 40 hours of community service because you needed a grade for that. No, because you did it on your own, like I am. I give a lot of hours to this organization, and I work, and I'm getting my master's. But I believe that giving back to the community is so powerful and it's so meaningful, and you make a change. So do community service, students, because you're going to need that, okay? Also, leadership. Don't confuse community service with leadership. Leadership opportunities are very important when applying for full ride scholarships, like the Ivy Leagues or like those programs I was telling you about. They're going to need leadership. And a lot of students don't understand the difference between that. Let me just kind of break it down in easier layman terms for you, okay? First of all, students can go into maybe their student body. Maybe you're a captain of your team. Maybe you're you can go into your student organizations and lead that way, or maybe you can create something. So I have given some recommendations. for students, because what are the issues in your community? What can you do? Start using your critical thinking skills, expand those brain cells. You have them there, students. So you want to say, what can I do in my community? Who needs help? Well, we already know that a lot of kids get a lot of coats and toys. Everybody does that. But what can I do different? Well, maybe I'm going to work with the elderly. There's so many elderly people that don't have people visit them, or maybe I can go to the hospital and help, and maybe wheelchair people in, or maybe I can collect some cell phones for battered women maybe they're staying at a location where they're away from their spouse because they've been battered. There's all kind of different things you can do, but I just want to just share with you. But you lead it. You create your flyer. You recruit some students. Let your administrators know, so that way they can write a letter on your behalf. You may want to do a reading because we did that too at Spartan Academy. I did that with my class, and then I did it every year after that. Tutored at-risk kids in the young projects. So there's all kind of different things that you can do to earn that if you have not gotten that far yet on leadership, especially when you're looking for free rides. Okay, we're getting closer. But it also looks good on your college application for scholarship eligibility. It lets you try out careers, because as I mentioned earlier, students normally change their mind 2 or 3 times their careers. It's a waste of time, waste of money, waste of energy. So it's very important that you know when you're getting a scholarship that if you change your career, are they going to take my scholarship away? Or just make sure that you volunteer, because then you get also a feel of what you really want to do in life. Okay. And it's a good American tradition. It makes you feel good. It makes me feel good talking to you and sharing all this information. Community service awards, all kind out there. Target has a whole bunch of them, and they also have one $25,000 scholarship. If you don't apply, if you don't have your essay written and you wait till the last minute, you're not going to get the scholarships. You got to write something. You're going to college now. So I'm going to give you an example. Aaron, one of my students, he wouldn't mind sharing this with you, because I was really upset with him, because I spent 3 years mentoring him and helping him. And I said, you're going to apply for that the Bill Gates scholarship? He had a 3.4. Well, I don't think I'm going to get it. I said, you're a math major, because I was a recruiter. I may have 200 biology and chemistry majors, but I may only have 3 math majors, and they met that GPA requirement of 3.2. I got all of them first. Why? Because the underrepresentation of math majors, especially African American male. I said, I would still apply. You're African American, you have a 3.4, and you want to major in math. Guess what? Lo and behold, he received the Bill Gates scholarship. But that day, I said, and he'll share it with you. He'll share it with my students. That day, I said, if you do not apply, don't call me anymore. I was really serious, because I was hurt, because I said all that time I invested in him, and I believed in him. He didn't believe in himself, and he went and submitted 3 minutes before the deadline. Guess what? He got it. His undergraduate, now he's in grad school and PhD, if he chooses to pursue his PhD, are all covered. So don't let the window of opportunity close on you. There's opportunities out there, okay? So these are all various types of scholarships out there for you. So these are from the CAPEX. So as you scholarships in Target, Walmart, everybody's offering scholarships. So always look locally, type of local scholarships in DC or local scholarships in Baltimore, and you'll see the list of scholarships, okay? Types of scholarships. Now we're getting down to something. Now you may want to take a picture of this. You do have access to this. I'm going to send it to them again, because they have different PowerPoints, curriculum PowerPoints. Tello is another organization that gives out scholarships. Sometimes I think they were in Sacramento with us, and I was not aware of how much scholarships they give out, but I would create an account there. It's free. Okay, so Tello matches college students with $20 billion in scholarships and award money that can be used for things like tuition, books, room and board. Okay, so apply for the create account with Tello. Also, search within your community. I put the ones for my students, like Elks Lodge. You may have an Elks Lodge. We have one at Fresno Unified. I think we have $118,000 that we give out in scholarships. I donate every month. They take it out of my check to donate towards a scholarship. I don't know where it goes, but it goes into that pot of money. PG&E, our PG&E here locally offers scholarships, $1,000, $5,000 scholarships. Right now I'm pushing AME, the American Mexican Association for Educators. They have scholarships, the peace officers, only for women scholarships. They also have the peace officers, California scholarships. So I'm just going over some of these scholarships. Also, Delta Sigma Theta, also our Black College Expo, our College Expo as well, and our Latino Expo. So this expo also offered scholarships if you went in early enough and looked at the deadline and submitted your essay. So if you didn't make it this year, students, maybe you want to try it next year. I created my own also because of my students. So I'm building our scholarship. I'm building a scholarship website for financial literacy. So if you want to go on my website, you can see our California State scholarships as well. Now, this is good for ninth graders to 12th grade. So if you're in the 10th grade, I would create an account as soon as you get off the phone. Create the Raise Me. You start earning micro scholarships, small scholarships in the various colleges and universities. And there may be, I don't know, 300, 400, 500 schools that are with Raise Me. And I think we even have some HBCUs on there as well. I think like 5 or 6 HBCUs. So how does that work? That means that if you participate in maybe an event, attend a college fair, which you are today, and you're also in a seminar. So if you attend a college fair, 195 colleges and universities offer you a scholarship anywhere from $5 to $2,500. That's when I say micro. But what if you receive 12 different micro scholarships? You from that school. I had one student that accumulated $177 worth of Raise Me scholarships between 12 colleges. She selected the school that gave her the most, which was I think 40 something or 34 something thousand, and she used her federal aid, and she ended up going to a university in Arizona that she never heard of, and it's a great school. It's the Grand Canyon Christian school. So she went to the school and she didn't pay anything. So this is also a great opportunity, but I urge you students, especially ninth graders, that's when you can start, because you start building through your academic year. Not only it's a motivator, you let your teachers know about it so they can log on and verify, and it gives your actual profile, and it provides a lot of support for you. So use that resource. There's a lot of resources out there. Here I put this. You may want to take a snapshot of this because these are the scholarships that I believe are the most valuable. Why? Because, of course, Topics has $11 billion. And, of course, I always use College Navigator when students want to pinpoint a certain major. They may say, I may want to go to Wisconsin, but what state schools offer architecture? Okay, then I'll go to that Navigator and it'll tell me which schools. Then I can go into the website and do my research. That's all research. And then the tuition funding sources, 7 million scholarships worth $41 billion. Yeah, 41 billion. That's a lot of money, guys. That's something that should open your eyes and say, you know what, I'm going to go apply for these now. Let me look at my essay. If you're a mom and your child or your father and your student is on, make sure you apply for these, okay? And so here's some more scholarships. My Scholarly, you have to pay for, but I heard that it's a really good link, but I'm just letting you know, I normally don't put links that cost, and it may be $5, $10. I don't know what they charge, but I've heard a lot of students get money from there. So here's the CB Opportunity Scholarship I mentioned earlier. So you may want to use that. Remember that one, you don't have to have a high GPA, just so long as all they care about is you applied for a college. They don't look at GPAs, they don't look at essays, they don't look at what else they don't look at scores, just so long as you did everything to apply for a college. So I would recommend you to go to the website. So here are some other great websites you may want to take a picture of, okay? You have like Coca-Cola Scholarship. They have a lot of, when I was at Norfolk State, I used to have the representative from Coca-Cola and say, hey, can any of your students apply? Because they won't get enough people of color. They don't get enough African-Americans to apply. And I asked some of my students, have you wrote your essay? And when I'm conducting a workshop, there's 100, 200, 300 kids in my workshops, when not virtually, when I'm in person, and I ask, how many of you seniors have your essays ready? There may be like 50, 60 seniors, and only 5 will raise their hand. You should have your essay already written out. So here are some workshops. I used to be the VP for the United Negro College Fund. A lot of my kids here, I get them to apply. I'm no longer, I stepped down because I had to choose between this organization and that organization. I chose this one to serve on this board to help and support, because you reach more kids. Here, the United Negro College Fund, they have a lot of scholarships. The Hispanic Fund, keep in mind, even if it says Hispanic Fund, when you go into their link, you'll see minority scholarship. They just listed minority because it's for African-American, Hispanics, and all. Now, keep in mind, too, that if they receive federal dollar, if they receive any money from the federal government, they cannot discriminate. So you can apply for Hispanic funds or Maldives, or just like Hispanics can apply for the United Negro College. I received a $500 scholarship years ago when I was in college for the United Negro College Fund. Here you got Thurgood Marshall, Jackie Robinson, the Black XL. Here you also have littleafrica.org. So there's various types of scholarships out there, but the bigger ones that I gave you, you can link, just type of African American scholarships, Hispanic scholarships, merit scholarships, Native American scholarships, Asian scholarships. There's all kinds of scholarships out there. So these are for dreamers. If there's any dreamers in here or any educators, this is a dreamer's roadmap, mobile roadmap that for students that are undocumented. There's a lot of scholarships here. You have it on your phone. I have it on my phone. I'm always getting texts and emails naming different various scholarships. There's a lot of them there as well for the dreamers. Also, I just added this one. They have a mega list of scholarships you can apply for. So I like their format. So I kind of just added it to the presentation. Of course, I gave you the main ones that I use, but there's nothing wrong with using other ones that may have something a little different. A lot of them kind of overlap, but sometimes what I found is when I go to different ones, oh, I didn't know this one. This it's not in my other, database. So, but it has it in this one. You may want to apply there too. Okay. I created this for my students. I'm going to give this to Teresa to list. You've probably seen some other ones, but this one I've made it more detailed for my students to make it easier to understand. Why? It's because sometimes when people create certain things, sometimes they assume that some students can really understand it, but they're first-gen students, and sometimes they can't, or the parents don't know. So sometimes we have to break it down a little bit better so they can understand. Compare your award letters, okay? So here, cost of attending. What are the charges? So you put all your charges here. Here's 3 schools. So what are your charges? Are you in-state, out-of-state tuition and fees? What is your room and board? If you're staying on campus, living expensive, you live in an apartment, are you paying rent? You put all your charges here, and you put your total charges, and then here on the next one is your grants and scholarships that you're receiving. That's how you're going to determine how much you owe. What I found is still today is that, and people say different things. I think different. I try to think more proactive and positive. Well, this is the first time. They don't have to know. That's a dream school. They don't know they have to pay $15,000 out of pocket. They got accepted, but that's where this will help you. And if you plan early, then yes, you can. If you got in, I'm sure there's money out there for you. So then here you add your charges, and this is what you owe. And then here, if you want to take out loans, know the different loans that are out there. Parent Plus loans. Like I had a student one Parent Plus loan. That does your parents make that much money? That means they're going to have to end up paying. If you're going to San Diego State, yes, you got your financial aid, but you're staying on campus. You're still going to owe, I think, $11,000 each year for 4 years. That's $44,000. Your loans can't cover that. So you have to be realistic. That's why you got to list at least 4 schools on your FAFSA, so that way you're better prepared. And I can go on and tell you about this. There's so many things that our students need to learn, but hopefully what I'm giving you is something that at least you can start off with. It's a lot of information. It is. It's a lot of information. But we still need to break it down. I have a series of workshops from my district. I do pieces because it's too much information. So here in this presentation, I try to tap in on a few things that you need to know, and mostly about scholarships and how to get scholarships and where are the scholarships, and how to also know that this, I put, like, for example, this slide here, I had to create it because we found, not just at our school district, we're talking about the whole United States. We find that a lot of students get confused on portals. When you apply for a college, that they're thinking that's the portal and they got accepted. No, it doesn't work that way. They got accepted. Now, in that acceptance letter, if they read further down, it says you're going to have a temporary login. Now you got to create your portal for the university, where that's where the financial aid office is going to be sending your notifications to. And if you don't have that portal, you will never know if you've been awarded, or you'll never know that you have to fill out some additional forms, and the rest is history. You do not want to jeopardize your financial aid. Okay, because on your financial aid award letter, they're giving you a certain time to sign it, because if you do not sign it, you will not receive that financial aid. Okay, so just keep that in mind. All right, and then again, institutional aid, there's so much out there. Post-secondary colleges, of course, they have institutional funds, endowments that help pay for their students. And sometimes they have scholarships named Board of Visitors, Dean's List, or Dean's Scholarship. So just depending where you're going. So again, CAPEX is another one. And tuition funding sources is really the big one. I already went over private foundations, WUIs. Okay, I'm not going to go over this because this has to do with, remember earlier I was talking about our region, and I think I went over Florida's. Here's our region. And as you can see, just showing you this one, as from all of those states, they mostly come to California, 17,511. So they get a tuition break up to 150%. So that could be almost $10,000. So what if you're in the marching band? Maybe you have some other talents that you may want to still be involved in extracurricular activities, or you may be in the music department. Like for example, if you want to be in the marching band, they also give scholarships there. So if you're interested, make sure you get a recommendation from your music teacher. Okay, because they do hold scholarships. Also, types of scholarships are available. As I mentioned, the Board of Visitors, governors, and departmental scholarships. Each university has a different name. And also something called tuition remission. Your parents sometimes may work for an organization. They may not even know that it's a perk or an incentive for them. But Bank of America offers this called tuition remission, where the company will pay for the parents' course at college or their children's course in college. And normally it's either one course or two course. But I know these three companies definitely, and there's a lot of others that I'm not aware of that offer it, but you would know, because if you work for a large corporation or conglomerate, whomever, you can find out. Bank of America has it, Coca-Cola has it, and FedEx has it. This is just a counselor planning resource guide for a lot of different resources for you. It will help you. I will take a snapshot of this picture. If you're struggling in certain grades, in certain areas, like math is not my forte, definitely, because it's repetition and you have to do it every day. If you haven't done it in a year, you forget everything. If you haven't done it in a week, and that's not your thing, your academia that you're interested in, but you still have to take that in order to get into college. Here is a good website that will help you. Khan Academy. It's free. Create an account. It helped me in my stats class. I'm going to be honest, I'm not a math person. I haven't been in college in years. And my PhD I got a long time ago. My master's I got a long time ago in the 90s, 80s and 90s. So this right here helped me in my stats class. I have all A's in my class except in statistics on the grad level and even PhD level. And using all these different tools was very challenging for me. But because of Khan Academy, it helped me and I got to be in that class. I was satisfied with that. So be prepared to ask questions while you're at the college fair or wherever college fair you go to. Always, what is your field of study? Don't just go in front of a college recruiter and say, oh, tell me about your school. You go in and you tell them, do you have this major? Do you have biology, or do you have any medical programs, or do you have nursing at your school? Do you have business, or I'm majoring in music? You got to ask them, what is your passion and what kind of school you want to go to? A lot of students don't consider these things until after they're asked. Well, you're going to small school, large school, urban school, rural school, private school, public university. These are questions you need to ask yourself first to be able to determine which schools you're going to want to attend. List all the schools that you're interested in, and then look at that. Some people don't like rural areas. They like the urban areas, or vice versa. Some people don't want to go to private school. They want to go to public school. Some people like larger schools. I like smaller schools because, for me, it worked out perfect because my professor paid more attention to me and helped me through the process. When you have large schools and you're able to listen to a lecture with 300 people, well, then that works for you. But it doesn't work for everybody. So look at those types of things. What is the cost for tuition, room and board? Those are the type of questions you need to ask. What are the GPA requirements to get into your school? Or what are the GPA requirements to get some of your scholarships? What is your average financial aid package for financial needs students? Learn the different deadlines for admissions from the school, from housing and other programs. What type of scholarships? What type of organizations, clubs, or support groups do I have on campus? What is your student-teacher ratio? Not your girl-boy ratio. What is your student-teacher ratio? So I put this together real quick here. The reason why I put this Excel is because a lot of times students have their essays or their scholarships scattered all over the place. So I did this Excel. So you may want to create one and put funding, award amount, timeline, eligibility, and application requirements. And as you're looking at different scholarships in the newspaper, in the magazine, someone emailed it to you, or whatever the situation may be, remember most of those scholarships come up every year, and you may want to apply for it. Okay, this will help you. Keep it in one place, and then try to apply at least one a day. I challenge you on that. There's scholarships out there and you have everything in place. Cut down your social media, apply to one a day. I guarantee you're going to get some back. But so if you do, I tell my students, apply to at least 50 to 100. You're going to get some back. Trust me. If you meet the criteria, something's going to come back, but you got to put the work in. Okay. Now, that's the end of my presentation. Thank you. These are my students various times. This student right now is in Ohio getting his master's. He went to Lincoln. That's my nephew here. He went to Lincoln. This is at Georgetown because I do the HBCU Ivy tour. She's now at Georgetown, a junior. This young lady right here went to Virginia State in the back, if you can see her. And she is now in her PhD program at Virginia Tech. So most of these kids over here on the left are going to Ivy Leagues. So that, my friends, is the end of my presentation, and hopefully, what happened? Stop sharing. Here it is. Right? Okay. All right. So I know that it was long, but we got through, right? So are there any questions for me that you want to ask me? Please ask me.
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah, okay.
I came here a little late.
Let me put my earphone because I can barely hear you. Okay. And I'll hear you better if I have this in my ears. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, I came here a little late, but I wanted to know if you guys talked about grants, like grant opportunities, because I got financial aid down. I'm just trying to figure out.
Are you referring to grant opportunities like the Pell Grant and those types of grants?
Mm-hmm.
Now, are you talking about your state grants?
Yes.
Okay, I did go over that a little bit, and I said at the end of the presentation, we're going to go into the website, your website and I'm going to pull it up right now you have a DC CAP grant. Are you familiar with that?
Mm-mm.
Okay, there's a Pell Grant. I did go over, let me just show you something real quick.
Okay.
I am going to go back to that screen to show you how it breaks down from federal. So you already applied for your FAFSA, right?
Yes, I just did that last week.
Okay, Let me just put this over here.
Just waiting for their feedback, see if I'm legible for financial aid.
Well, I can tell you kind of offhand, if family income in your family, I can kind of give you a rough estimate because I was a financial aid person.
Mm-hmm.
If the families, I'm just going to give you some figures, and then you can determine from there.
Mm-hmm.
If your family for a zero EFC, if family makes less than 27,000, they automatically get a full amount. Now, but we have families sometimes that make 50,000 a year, and they may have a family of 6. Yes, you're going to get a good substantial amount of Pell, or you may not get the full amount, but that's the financial aid office that determines the exact amount how much you're going to receive. Or if there's 2 or 3 people in the family that are in college, they also look at that. I'm going to give an example. My brother made 42 or 44,000 a year, family of 5, and or is it family of 5, family of 6? Family of 6, and I had 2 kids in college. They got the full Pell almost. I think they were off like maybe $50 the full Pell. Wow. So that's how the Pell works. However, your state, like our state, is a little different. Our Cal grant. So if you're Pell eligible, that's Pell federal aid, and then you got your state aid. But I wanted to kind of show you what I have for. Let me see if I can pull it up, and tell me if you can see it.
Okay.
Can you see the pie shape?
It's loading. Yes, I can.
Okay, and you see now. Ignore this state side over here. So Oh, let me see. Hold on. What's this? Click twice to minimize video. I don't want it minimized. So as you can see, the federal aid, there's about 150 to 180 billion dollars worth of scholarship. You got a Pell Grant, and if you're Pell eligible, you're also eligible for Supplemental Education Opportunities Grant if you applied early. So that means if you applied in October, because that grant is based on first come, first serve, and that can be anywhere from I think $200 to $4,000 based on need. Then based on your major, that these are all grants. These are federal grants. Okay, you got a teach grant if you wanted to be a teacher based on your state, and I went over this earlier. And then work study, you know, you work on campus, of course. And then you have the Afghanistan grant, military. That's all military. Then you have your state grants. And so your state grant, normally you don't know about those until after you apply for your FAFSA, and then your state gets involved and also offers you grants. So like Florida, they have all these different grants. We have our grants as well, just the same. Every state has the same. And then they have something also called, it's more like a tuition exchange program. DC, Maryland, all those, I know the DC incentive grant they have there because I used to work at Norfolk State and I worked in student accounts and financial aid. So of course, those students that came from that region used to pay the in-state tuition. So, you know, just depending where you're going. So there's a lot of determining factors, a lot of variables out there. So I'm just kind of giving you a broad information, but just keep in mind there is state aid, and I'm going to go into that website, whoever wants to stay on, and we can look at those together. And then you have institutional scholarships, as I mentioned. There's all kind of institutional scholarships, and I did go over all of that as well. I don't know when you came in, but we went over all of the various scholarships. Tuition fundingsources.com is a really great website for you to create your account because they have 7 million scholarships worth $40+ billion. Does that make sense? And then you have CAPEX, and this PowerPoint is on our website. If you go to the National College Resource Foundation and look for the actual PowerPoint, I'm going to be adding more resources on there because I create these for my district. And so what I create for my district, I create for the National College Resource Foundation. Sometimes I have to alter those to meet the community because we do workshops throughout the whole nation. So in this piece right here, I am going to be trying to do a little bit more research on your area, and I'll be adding that on probably by next week. But I'm changing these for DC and Maryland area. I'm going to be changing the academic market and change your, make it to fit your area. So if you're on this presentation, I'm going to alter a few slides in this piece right here with federal, state, institution. I'm going to change the state to list all of your state scholarships. But I'm going to show you where to find it as well while we're on. Okay. And so as you can see, the institutional scholarships, need blind, need base. If you went to an Ivy League, you get, your family makes less than $65,000. It's a free ride, room, board, tuition, and fees. So there's a lot of opportunities out there. You just have to know how to I think something popped up. Hopefully they don't cut me off. So to learn to apply. So let me go into another link that I want to go into for the DC scholarships, DC State Educational Aid. Just typing. See what that comes up. Okay, so if you don't have this website, I encourage you to go there. So let me go back to where you're at.
I think the screen froze.
It did, but I have to start. Hold on one second.
Okay.
I have to bring you back up first. Hold on. Here. So I stopped sharing. Now I'm going to share again. Oh, it didn't. Hold on. Cancel. Hold on. I need to put this. Okay. Let's see if it comes up. Here it is. Okay. Tell me if you guys can see this. So all I typed up was DC educational state grants. That's all I typed up. As you can see, this tells you all of your various types of scholarships, as well as your financial aid. Does that make sense what I'm saying? So here, remember I was talking about DC incentive, District of Columbia tuition assistant grant. So if I wanted to go there, it says here, the DC TAG program provides a maximum of $10,000 per year to cover the difference between in-state and out-of-state tuition at a public four-year institution of higher learning so that District of Columbia students can attend schools elsewhere. The most you can collect is $50,000 after a 6-year period has collapsed. So you can look at that. So now you see what I'm saying? So and I'm going to put some of that, but I'm just going to have to make it concise for a slide because this is a lot of information, but I would recommend that you go to this website for DC. Same thing for Maryland. You have your Maryland. So on the left, I'm going to pull up Maryland. So now you know about other grants, okay? Now you see that?
I can't. Oh.
You can't see it?
Actually, on your move, let me see. I think I can see it. Just a little bit. It's kind of hard. I don't have the app, so.
Okay, well, all you have to do again is type in, can someone else see it? Oh, you're welcome. You guys are welcome. Can you guys see it? Yes, you can. Okay. It's small on here, but it's because I don't want to mess with it too much and lose everything because sometimes that happens. So at any rate, so then you can see it to the left, choose your state. So I'm going to do Maryland because I know there's Maryland people here and I want to make sure that I serve Maryland as well. So as you can see, do you see yours, Maryland?
Yeah.
If you're from Maryland. So this is a scholarships for Maryland. They're state scholarships. So keep in mind, you got federal and then you have state, and those are grants, okay? And then sometimes the campuses also from your state school will also offer institutional campus grants. Yes, for Georgia, on the slide, on this PowerPoint for Georgia, I had Texas and I actually had that PowerPoint. So if you go to our website, you'll see Georgia. It's that Common Market app, and it lists maybe about 12 to 13 various schools. So if you're living in Florida, between Texas and Florida, Georgia's in between. You had Louisiana, I think, if I'm not mistaken. All of that is a common app, and I think you can save up to $15,000+. And I went through that already. However, again, this PowerPoint will be up. We always do these workshops. I'm always supporting the expo. So they will be available. What is the link to website? This one is, I'm going to put it in the chat, okay? This is for Maryland. And you can, I'm going to put it in the chat. And I'm going to put in also for Georgia. There's the one for Maryland. And this is for Georgia. So, okay. And then you can go here and this will help you. And you can go to their website. And I'm going to do Georgia. And then I'm going to do also, I'm going to list DC for you. Okay. DC again. Where's District of Columbia? Here it is. DC. Sorry, you know, when you get up in age, you get a little slower than the young people. But what I do have is a lot of knowledge that many people, this is 30 years of knowledge. So this is a DC. Is there another state that you want me to put? Since I have it up, I can put it on the chat for you. So I just put the DC one. So you can go to the DC and look at that website, and then you can go more look detailed for the different various grants and what you need to do. There any more? Okay, okay, there's some questions here. Pennsylvania. Oh, Texas. Okay, let me do Texas. So if they cut me off, it's not because I cut you off, it's because the program's over, I think. So here's Texas. And I think if you go into any of those, you'll see the states from the side, but I don't want to say that's the case. And then we see, oh, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, where are you?
Apply to one of these states. All you got to do is just click on your state and like read what it.
Yeah, if you're from that state, if you're from your own state, you got to look at your own state first to see if there's a collaboration. Now, for Georgia, Texas, Florida, they have it. We don't have it in DC or Maryland. They have it in New Hampshire area, Vermont. There's like about 10 states in that area that have one for them as well. The key thing is for you to go to your home state first let me see, hold on, to go to your home state first and go from there. But like, for example, in California, I have, and the reason why I know mine is WUI, Western Undergraduate Exchange Program. So we have 16 states in the Western region considered WUI, Western Undergraduate Exchange, which includes also Hawaii. So if I've sent a couple of students to Hawaii, instead of them paying that out-of-state tuition of $22,000, $25,000 a year, they only end up paying a little bit over $8,000. Same thing like they go to UC, if they go to the University of Las Vegas, or the University of Reno, they only pay $8,600 as opposed to $25,000 a year, if that makes sense, instead of out-of-state tuition. That's what these tuition breaks are, and that's why it's so important for you to learn your region. And there's all you have to do is Google it. And I'm trying to teach more students to do that because they're lost, they're confused, the parents don't know, but someone has to tell you to find these websites. And so I try to accommodate more families, because the more you know, the better off your child will be, or the students will be. Don't you agree? I agree. Mm-hmm. So Virginia, oh my gosh, I lived in Virginia for 15 years. I worked at Norfolk State University. I was a commissioner for the governor of Virginia, and also for Governor George Allen, and Senator George Allen, and also former Governor Mark Warner, who is also a senator. So Virginia has Virginia's with the common, that one, I'm going to bring that up again. So I'm going to close this up and go back to that website that PowerPoint I had, and stop sharing. I'm going to go to the PowerPoint. I'm going to show you that. Let me see. I stopped sharing. So now you have those, and I'm going to share this PowerPoint again. Can you see it? Yes? Okay. Okay. So here, you remember, if you live in any of these participating institutions, these states, these are participating institutions. I didn't word that right, sorry. So these are all the states that is called the academic common market. And I'm going to kind of elaborate a little bit more on this, because it looks like everybody's kind of confused a little bit on this. Every state has state grants, okay? So long as you did your FAFSA, but you won't get your state grant if you don't do a FAFSA. You'll get your federal grant, then you get your state grant, okay? Now, there's also something called exchange programs. And most of all the states, except for DC and Virginia, except for DC and Maryland. I think Maryland's not in here. Oh, no, Maryland's in this one. Oh, let me take that back. I do have DC. So if you are a DC student, Maryland student, Virginia student, and you want to go to Texas, you're going to go here, go to this website, the Academic Common Market. Why? Because you can save a tuition up to a year, up to $15,000, maybe more, because this is 2015. Does that make sense for everybody? So I just want everybody to understand this piece. It's very, very important that you understand this piece, because the more you read, the more knowledgeable you're going to be. And there's 2 links here on the bottom. And again, I think this is already on our website. I would go to the website and pull this PowerPoint, and this will help guide you. So if you're a student or your child wants to go to another state, they want to go to Georgia, they live in DC and they want to go to Georgia, they can take advantage of the academic common market. However, there's certain criteria, there's certain things that do require that you have to make sure that you're checking first. It may be the major, it may be they may take the first 100 kids from your state. It varies on various factors, but you would have to make sure that you go to this website and do your research. I'm providing you the resources, letting you know, yes, you can receive that, but it may depend also on your major, okay? It depends on a lot of things. So that is the end of my presentation. Hopefully that helped everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Please join us when we come back again. Next year we'll have presentations. I'll have some updates. I encourage you to visit us. Even go to our other websites. We're going to have some more college experiences, and I'm going to probably add another session that's going to be on another topic on verification forms, because I think we need that right now. A lot of students are getting their forms from the financial aid office and don't know what to do. So I think maybe that will be something to help our families. So hopefully that can help you. Can you share your email address? Well, remember, I do, this is all volunteer. I can't promise I'll get to you because I work and I'm in school, but if you direct the questions to the college, the Black College Expo, yes, we do have a staff. We have paid staff. All my work is all volunteer. That's why I want to answer all of your questions here, because it can be hectic, and I don't want to, you send me an email and I don't contact you because I'm busy. That giving you my personal email, if that makes any sense. So please ask me all your questions now, because my time is limited.
I got one more question.
Go ahead.
Earlier you were talking about the academic common market. Does that only apply to people who wants to go to a different state, or does that also apply?
No. Well, there's two things. What state are you in? Just give me the state you're in. Maryland. Okay. So you remember that other link that I gave you to? Then you go there in Maryland for your state school. Remember I said there's two things going on here.
Mm-hmm.
You could, for students that are in Maryland, want to know about their grants, their state and federal grants, their state grants, they go to the Maryland. You go to that Maryland link that I gave you. Okay. Because there's the DC incentives. They have grants there. However, this other one is for my Maryland families that may want to go to Georgia. Okay, well, they're not going to be using their state grant because they're not staying in their state, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they can take advantage of if they receive federal aid grants and also the academic common market, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that wouldn't.
So hopefully, no, that wouldn't apply for you.
Okay.
That apply. I try to, because I have other families here. Sometimes I have a whole bunch of families. Right now, I only have like 27 families. We had 40 or so, but some just are staying on because they want questions answered, and that's why I'm here.
Okay.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Where can we review the recording of this presentation? I think it's online. I think they're going to put it online. They normally do. Again, we have a staff. I just do what Teresa asked me to do. Can you do this presentation? And I do it for her. This is all from my heart, and also support as a community leader and as a national leader. So they do put all this stuff on the PowerPoint. But if you put your email there, I'll make sure, I'll just tell them, they'll go through the messages, and I say, there's some people that want you to email them the presentation, but they put it online because we're national. We got thousands of people. And we do that to accommodate you. So just go to our website, the National College Resource Foundation, and go into this link to this event and look at all of the different, I think they put 3 or 4, but I'm sending them more. So there'll probably be about 10 PowerPoints listed from the various regions, as well as some handouts for you to help you to not navigate so much and work so hard and doing a lot of research. We'll do the research for you, if that makes any sense. Okay. Thank you so much. What should
you said? The National College Resource
Foundation.
Thank you.
Yeah. We also have a program coming up for girls ages 12 to 18. It's virtual. Go to our events and look at what we do. If you never heard of us, in the past, in Los Angeles, we're huge. We had like 35,000 students come to the convention center where Teresa Price is the founder, and she's a phenomenal lady that has just done so much. And I support her in every way I can because she does really passionately love students. And not only Teresa, it's her whole entire staff. So I commend them. And because she does that, that's why I support. She brings that positive energy into helping the community. So it says, if I'm not eligible for Pell or financial aid, if you're not eligible, now certain states may have, like, for example, I'm going to give you some examples, because I don't know what state you're from, and that allows me, the questions that you ask, I'm going to do some more research, so that way I can answer those questions in the future. For our state, some of our parents are not eligible for state or federal because they exceed 150,000 a year. Okay, I'm just giving you hypothetical. So then we have something called a middle class scholarship. UC Berkeley started this, and it's with our California Student Aid Commission for California, and those are for families that make up to 177 $1,000 a year. So what a lot of families are doing, because 3 years ago, all of our community college students, regardless of the family income, regardless, we have 113 community colleges throughout the state of California. If they complete an accurate FAFSA, have a 2.0 GPA, accurate FAFSA, 2.0 GPA, and a full-time student, they can go to community college free in California for our California residents. And then they go on transfer to a 4-year, and then they get that middle class scholarship for families that make a lot of money. Because sometimes if they go to a 4-year, they may not be eligible. They may have to take out a loan, and that can be a little put a hardship. But that's why scholarships are so important, because there's merit scholarships out there, and it just depends on the student's profile. Excuse me, I've been talking a lot. I have my asthma's flaring up. You can hear it in my voice. But there's all kind of opportunities out there. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay. Now, again, you go to our website, but I'll let them know that there's some emails here if they can send it out. But she did say that this PowerPoint, because depending on the staff, if you don't get it, please go to the website, okay? That's the end of my presentation. I'm going to say good night. I know it's late, and I gotta go take my asthma. I've been talking all day today, and I'm losing my voice, as you can see. But I wish you the best in your educational endeavors, and thank you, and you have a good evening. Bye. Let me stop sharing.